Well, the F1 action returned this past weekend in a bit of an emotional weekend indeed, but we've got a stellar crew out in Italy already. No rest for the wicked is how I say it, because they're already in Italy looking ahead to Monza. Nate Saunders and Lawrence Edmondson. Guys, I'm very jealous of your view, but let's get right into the action now. Let's talk about Ferrari, Nate, because just last week you did sit down here in lovely London with me and you told me that this is the race for Ferrari and a certain Sebastian Vettel, but it wasn't for Sebastian Vettel. It ended up being for Charles Leclerc, something that Lewis Hamilton said he had coming all year. So, should Ferrari throw all their weight behind Leclerc and not Vettel anymore?
Well, I think this is the big question now, and I think it's now a year since Seb Vettel won a race. The last race he won was Belgium last year, so it was quite important for him to get that win just to make sure that run didn't continue. Obviously, very emotional circumstances, as you said, for Charles Leclerc, and I think it was quite poetic that he was able to do that. But just looking at it from a sporting perspective, I think, like the whole narrative around that team really is changing with each race. And Leclerc looked so much better than Vettel all weekend. He was just outperformed him from the very beginning. And they even had to ask Vettel to move over for him. That was where it got to. It was based on strategy and what had happened to Vettel's race. But I mean, if you just sat someone down for the first time and given them that race to watch, they'd think Charles Leclerc was the four-time world champion and that Vettel maybe was his younger teammate, because that's what it looked like out there.
Lawrence, what about you? Do you agree with him?
Yeah, I think at the moment Ferrari's biggest problem is not their drivers. The biggest problem is the performance of the car. So going forward, while I think there will be occasions where they will support Leclerc over Vettel, it really needs to be a case-by-case basis. You only have to go back to the Hungarian Grand Prix, and Vettel kind of had the edge there. So it does change track to track, situation to situation. And what Ferrari really need to do is just get more wins on the board. And then next year, they can start to think seriously about which driver they back for the championship. And by the time they get to that stage, I suspect it might actually be Leclerc.
Well, that's exactly what I wanted to touch on with you guys there, because like I said, I alluded to after the Belgian Grand Prix, Lewis Hamilton, he said that this is definitely something that Charles had coming all year for him. And, with everything that had happened, where do you see him going from here now? It's obviously only just going to get better, isn't it?
I think so. And it has been a long time coming. I mean, he should have won earlier in the season. One was denied to him by the Ferrari engine. He had a couple where he probably should have done a better job or could have done a better job at some things. And I think that once you get that first win, once you've finally got that over the line, I think it must change you mentally, what your experience, just how confident you are going race to race. And I think the more confident he gets, the better he's going to get. We've seen that with Max Verstappen. Each win seemed to give him a bit more confidence, and he seemed to get a little bit better with each one. If Charles does that, then we could have a really exciting season next year where we have Lewis up against Verstappen and Leclerc, who both are feeling hungry, feeling confident for their first championship. So hopefully that's the situation we get into. And again, it's not really that pretty a situation for Vettel, because in that one, in the situation I've just described, he sounds like the number two driver. He's in kind of the Bottas role, which I don't think is fair given his history in the sport, but given current momentum and how well Leclerc's doing, I think that it's not beyond question that could happen.
Lawrence, is that how you see it as well, looking into 2020, that it could be just Max Verstappen, Leclerc and Hamilton going for it?
Well, it will be the last year of Vettel's contract, so there'll be a lot on the line and he'll be very keen to get back in there. But if you look to the future of this sport, it's definitely with Leclerc and Verstappen, and basically as long as Lewis wants to carry on, he will of course be there. But those are the guys that are coming through, and also the likes of Lando Norris. So when we look long term, certainly Vettel's not in the picture, but that's partly due to his age, partly due to what he's achieved already. But next year's going to be so crucial for him, because if it goes badly again, if Leclerc gets the better of him over 2 seasons in a row, I can see next year being absolutely the last year of Sebastian Vettel's F1 career.
All right, well, let's bring it back a little bit now and just look ahead to why you guys are enjoying that lovely view. It's not because you're there on vacation. You're looking ahead to Monza. And just last week, like I said, Nate said that this was going to be Ferrari's weekend. What about this weekend? Is it going to be Ferrari's weekend again, or can Mercedes come back?
I think it's got to be Ferrari's. I mean, they deferred on taking an engine upgrade, so they'll have brand new engine for the Italian Grand Prix. They've already got an engine advantage. And I mean, there was a moment early in the race in Belgium, Vettel went past Lewis down the Camel Straight like Lewis wasn't even there. It looked like a reverse situation of earlier in this V6 turbo era, where Mercedes would just breeze past every car in a straight line. Ferrari is so quick, it's like a rocket ship basically in a straight line. So if they add with the added horsepower of a new engine upgrade, and I can't see past them. Monza, if you've got a good engine there, you're going to win the race. I think the question really is which one of them will win it, and whether they fall over themselves. Ferrari recently has had a tendency to trip over itself sometimes. Hopefully they don't do that this weekend, because I think it would put some nice gloss on what's been a pretty disappointing season for them if they could win at their home race. They haven't done that since 2010, so I can't see past that. I think I'll give the win to Leclerc over Vettel, but it's definitely surely got to be a red car on top of the podium.
Lawrence, you in agreement?
Not quite. I do think Ferrari's going to have the fastest car. Yeah, not quite. I think Ferrari will have the fastest car, certainly over one lap, and I can see Ferrari easily taking the front row of the grid. But just think back to 12 months ago at this same circuit. Sebastian Vettel spun on the first lap, so he was out of running. But Kimi was leading, and Kimi had some problems with the tyres. And at Monza, it's so important to look after the rear tyres. And we saw already in Spa that was a bit of a weakness. That's the reason Lewis Hamilton closed up so much on Charles Leclerc at the end of the race. And I think if Mercedes come here with a car stripped down on downforce as far as they can go, we always know that these teams come to Monza with a special aerodynamic package. If they can do that, find a little bit more straight line speed, close the gap a little bit to Ferrari, and be able to protect the rear tyres just by the nature of the way the car is set up, then in the race, I actually think it could be much closer. If I was putting money on it, probably still a Ferrari win, but I think it'll be much closer than a lot of people think.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. I'll let you go and enjoy that lovely view and hopefully get some work done over there.
Thank you.